All right, Katrina, I need you to stay right there because I want to bring in our panel for more on this. Heather Higgins, Independent Women's Voice President and CEO, and Fox News contributor DeRoy Murdoch. He's also National Review contributing editor. Heather, let me start with you. The numbers are just really absolutely phenomenal. This week alone, we saw retail sales, same-store sales for the last week in December were absolutely phenomenal. Manufacturing continues to go through the roof, and almost every single day, these numbers repeat themselves. They're the best either numbers we ever had or best numbers we've had in several decades.
Yeah, but they're not a surprise unless you had Trump derangement syndrome, right? If you had Trump derangement syndrome, you were Paul Krugman on election night pronouncing that if Trump won the presidency, the stock market would never recover. So
he had like about a 2 hour though. He took a 2 hour victory lap, right? When the Dow was down 800 points, and over, before.
So they misread the signals, right? But if you think about it just rationally, if you cut regulations, then you're going to be increasing business confidence and increasing their outlook, which improves the stock market. If you lower taxes, you're going to be improving corporate earnings, which is going to raise the stock market. If you are into a recovery already, even if it's a slow one in the Obama administration, you're going to need more CapEx spending, and then you pass a tax bill that also fast forwards the CapEx spending. That also is going to help your stock market. We're going to see more of this stuff as you go through, despite the New York Times having ridiculous articles about how there's no benefit to cutting regulations, clearly written by people who have never run a business.
To your point, Comcast, where some of their TV entities were the most critical of President Trump's tax cuts, they announced $50 billion in infrastructure spending because of the tax bill. $50 billion, DeRoy.
Yeah, that's a huge amount of money. And this isn't just going to the top executives that can all buy new helicopters. This is going to the cable guy, the cable gal, people putting in all this new fiber optic stuff, new cellular towers, whatever it might be. And the contrast between this tremendous boom we're seeing now, not slowing down at all, perhaps even accelerating compared to what we heard from Nancy Pelosi when this bill was being debated. Armageddon. The worst bill ever passed by Congress, she said. Never mind the Alien and Sedition Act or any of that sort of thing. And this boom is continuing now. I think it will accelerate. And I think I'd also focus on two words. That's human happiness. We very often look at all the numbers, what the stats are. This means that people actually can take care of themselves, take care of their loved ones, not fight over, oh, my God, how are we going to pay the bills? People are happier when the economy is growing.
I'm glad you brought that up because obviously critics will say, well, the polls aren't there yet. But I think individuals, certainly, the 531,000 individuals who got jobs, and it was good producing jobs last year. But also, Heather, the Trump derangement syndrome, a critical part of any successful economy is everyone buying in. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the media just started to partially, admit what was going on, partially just report the facts? Because I think that would even accelerate the gains.
It would, but that's going to be very, very hard for them to do because it's going to take maturity to admit that you were wrong. There are a lot of people who predicted that, for example, cutting regulations.
Predicted it, or they were hoping that it would fall apart?
Both. I think there's a lot of confirmation bias in this.
Does Krugman did he really, in his heart of hearts, in his academic part of his brain, think the market was going to implode when a businessman was there, or was he praying for it to implode?
I can't get into the soul of Mr. Krugman. But I do think that this is an opportunity for people who, where you make a prediction, and the prediction is immediately proved to be demonstrably false, to maybe have the humility to go back and re-examine your assumptions.
And the GOP should give them the opportunity to do that by reminding the American voters every day what we're doing, all the good we're having now, and how not one Democrat voted for this.
Can I give you one stock tip?
Sure.
We all know people who have Trump derangement syndrome, and they've been shorting the market for the whole last year, and their net worth has been sinking, right? Sure. When they finally just give up and they go back into the market, that's when you should sort of take your money out.
Yeah, well, that's always the case. Katrina, on that note, there was an article in the New York Times, of all places, that did talk about the Trump effect. Quote, a wave of optimism is beginning to translate into the sort of investment in new plants, equipment, and factory upgrades that bolster economic growth, spur job creation, and may finally raise wages significantly. So maybe they're coming around.
Well, that's one of the things that happens with winning, Charles. Eventually, they're going to have to acknowledge it. This is huge. This is massive. And it's just beginning. And like I said, 40 companies already are talking about the things that they're doing, hundreds of billions of dollars of investment. As you mentioned, people no longer on food stamps, 2 million of them. The CBO projects 1.3 million per year for the next 10 years will come off of food stamps. This is the human component where the markets can really help, whether it's happiness
Right.
or job security.
And hundreds of millions of dollars to charity, too. We can't overlook that. That has
Absolutely.
an impact for everyone. Thank you all very much. Meanwhile,